Hello there and welcome to my new guide for Against the Storm. I'm Icon, and in this video I'm going to talk about a lot of tips and tricks that will help you to win more in this wonderful roguelike colony sim. Against the Storm is a pretty deep and complex game. There's a lot of moving parts, and therefore there's a pretty high variance of topics in this video. So if you're looking for something in particular, there's timestamps down below, and if by all means there's any topic not being covered in this video, let me know in the comment section below, because I'm going to work on more stuff like that, and I'd appreciate more input because I'm pretty sure I cannot cover all the wisdom that you can have about this game all by myself. So feel free to add in yours. With that being said, before we get started with the very first topic, a quick advertisement in my own thing. There's a couple of support links in the description box below, and as a free content creator, I do all my content for free, and I have no big sponsors behind me except for this wonderful community, and therefore go check them out. I'd be delighted if you do. Enough of the advertisement, let's get into the actual meat and bones. So first off, I want to talk about a couple of very useful key bindings that I think make your life a lot easier in this game. So first off, if you hold down the Alt key, you see how the workers here are distributed, but it even gets better when you click one of those dudes. You also get that, and you can easily post people down, and you can also hold down Alt, right click these faces to remove them. This really makes managing larger colonies a lot faster and easier. Also, holding down the control key shows you what kind of items are being produced somewhere. Also very useful when you are just drafting and you want to check on out if you already produced this or that. Very nifty thing. Also works for all your collector camps. Holding down B marks all these resource nodes, so I really enjoy that one, especially when I was newer to the game. I had a lot of trouble spotting these resource nodes. Gotta say, the longer I play, the less I need that one, but holding down B marks up all that stuff, and I found that very useful when I started on out. And last but not least, holding down Y is giving you a marker of your current corruption. You see how many cysts are there, how much corruption per minute it stacks up, and you see how many how much corruption percent your hearth tanks. And if this ever goes over 100%, you better have a lot of blight fighters this storm. So that's pretty much the very basics about shortcuts that I wanted to talk about, because I find them extremely useful, and just wanted to let you know. So with that out of the way, let's talk about woodcutters, because woodcutters totally deserve an own topic in this video. Woodcutters are the lifeblood of your colony. Your colonies always require fuel, but woodcutters not only provide fuel, every type of tree in this game provides a lot of other things, or sometimes only one thing, but there's always byproducts. Against the Storm is a game of byproducts, and therefore woodcutting is extremely important. Therefore, a couple of tips and tricks that you might find helpful for them. So avoid opening glades is a wonderful setting. This way you can just put down your woodcutters, do with your woodcutting brush something like that, and rest assured that no catastrophe will happen. Even better so, your woodcutters will now prepare the glade, so you only need to chop one tree in the next season to actually open up the glade. Very good stuff and very helpful. Also, holding down shift while check marking this does remove or add the check mark on every woodcutter's camp in your colony. Pretty useful to know as well. So the other thing that I want to talk about in the woodcutters is when you position them, keep in mind that the red arrow ideally points to the location where the most trees are at. Why is that so? Your dudes will, on their work, chop trees, deposit their stuff in the woodcutter's camp until the woodcutter's camp is brim-filled, and then they carry it away. In a total, they make more trips from here to there than they make trips from here to there. So all in all, you can speed up your logistics a lot by orienting the entrance of your collectors where the harvesters, or this works with foragers too, where the harvesters are working towards to, you know, within the scenario of a scavenger's camp here, for example. Red arrow goes towards that, because this way you can easily gain a couple of production cycles per year. It's a small thing. It might sound stupid, but it really does more than I thought in the first place. Apart from that, woodcutters are extremely important, like I said already, and they are ideally beavers, because you have a chance to get double yields out of trees when you stack up beavers. And I personally say beavers rule. They belong into the woodcutters camp, and seriously, try to have as many beavers as you need woodcutters per year. An ideal amount of woodcutters in my personal experience was 2 to 3 in pretty much all scenarios. I had a few fringe cases where I played with 4 woodcutters, but as a rule of thumb, 2 woodcutters in a woodrich biome. You can also shrink it down to 1 if you are brave, and 3 woodcutters in a not woodrich biome, with an option to 4 if you have any nasty modifiers that slow you down. That's pretty much all that I wanted to say about the woodcutters. Let's get on over to the next thing, and that's drafting of blueprints. So blueprint drafting is an art for itself, but here a couple of thoughts that you might find quite helpful. I personally have a ranking order when I draft. First, I try to have access to all the building blocks that I need. That's planks, fabric, and bricks. I'm always looking for blueprints that provide me these. If I ever find stuff like farming buildings or collectors buildings, farms are extremely good. Have at least 1 farm in every run where there's fertile soil, because they are powerful. They are really, really powerful. It's even worth drafting 2 different farms simply because they are endless resource nodes, and that's damn powerful in this game. And with the foragers and trappers camps, well, they will see a rework shortly after I have done this video. All in all, only pick up what you need, and if you see that you cannot harvest a resource and you really, really hunger for it, pick it up. But if ever possible, pick the permanent income over the foragers. The farms are more powerful than the foragers, but sometimes you have to do what you have to do. The other thing in the drafting is you don't need to draft. You can keep these. You can keep these in your hand until you need them. There is by no means any reason to hurry yourself unnecessarily. You know, there's sometimes you just don't know what you're going to need of these things most. And when you open up a glade, or when you see what kind of resource nodes are lying around, it gets a lot easier to choose. And therefore, don't rush your drafting decisions. You don't need to keep this hand empty at all times. That's actually not a good idea at all. And here, a quick drafting order. First, the building blocks, then take care of food, then take care of complex food, then take care of services. That's the ranking order of things in this game, basically. When you have enough food and building blocks, you can work towards refining your food. This increases the quantity and upgrades it as well. And once you have that under control, you work towards the services where people need wine, scrolls, beer, and that stuff. So that's a few tips and tricks about drafting. The next thing that I want to talk about are orders. Orders are pretty similar to drafting, but a couple of other thoughts apply here. Whenever you open an order, you lock the other orders. So I cannot pick the other orders now. And when you have to choose when you have to choose which thing to pick, a rule of thumb for beginners: always pick the objective that's looking doable to you. That's the most important thing. For experienced players, it's more about what kind of reward are you looking for. I personally rank the permanent income rewards pretty high. Stuff like not income, permanent perks, like here we get to increase our planks production, or we get to increase our glade carrier capacity. That's pretty much up to you what you need, but keep in mind, for me the hierarchy is quite simple. The least desirable things are foodstuffs and the like in the rewards. Next comes building blocks. They're pretty good. Then we go for, then tools are the next layer of really, really cool rewards because they are really powerful. They help you resolve glade events. More about that in the specific topic, and they are darn valuable. Like you should always try to have like 14 tools in your colony, and then you're ready for all the adventures out there. And after that come the irreplaceable things reward wise. So whenever you get parts or wildfire essences offered, these are high tier rewards, but if you don't need them, you don't need to draft them. I personally am, that's subjective, I'm personally always looking for perk rewards. They offer me the highest tier of rewards because they have a permanent effect over my entire run instead of just a temporary thing. But sometimes, a large stockpile of food can be also exactly what you need. So it really depends on your situation. But to sum it up, check out that you can really fulfill the objective. That's damn important. And check out if you really want the rewards. And a last point about the drafting of orders. You don't need to open these. You can wait for them. I often really only have as many orders open as I want to fulfill at the very moment, and I don't open the rest of them. They don't go bad. And this goes especially true when you have unlocked timed orders. Then you have a chance to unlock a quest that has a time frame where you have to fulfill it. And it's really good when you take your time to be prepared for these. Basically, the more powerful your colony is, the higher the chance that your timed order will be quite easy. So altogether, don't rush these orders. You don't need to. But they are a pretty decent way of earning reputation points, so you should also not keep all the boxes locked, Find a middle ground. Don't rush yourself. Keep a bag or two locked if you have timed orders. That should do the trick and help you. So, the next topic that I want to talk about is the storm season. So let's fast forward here a bit while I'm talking. The storm season is the challenge season every year. This is where you got into problems because the hostility of the forest translates directly into a resolve punishment. Therefore, your ideas of surviving the storm are quite simple. You want to have the hostility as low as possible, and then the storm will be also as harmless as possible. Also keep in mind that the danger nodes here often activate from a specific hostility level. So a couple of very, very basic things about the storm. Every game, check out what the storm will do to you. Read those danger notes and prepare accordingly. They impose some very special rules. Sometimes you need to have coats for everybody. Sometimes you have to pay money for the queen. Sometimes everybody has to have a house. But you really have to know these things, otherwise it'll screw over your colony big time. The other thing here is now related a little bit more to what you can do when the storm is going hard on you. So here we have a very easy situation to be in. So come on, let's turn up the heat a bit and build a new woodcutter. First off, every woodcutter creates hostility. You can check out what's creating hostility here. So your options to lower hostility are, quite simply said, you can release woodcutters. I'm just going to demonstrate that. I hope I have enough workers here. So here you go. So, with that last worker now, we kick the bucket over and we have now low resolve. So this is often happening and you need to know how to manage yourself against that. Here's some tips. So first off, what really does help in situations like these is you have the lighter treatment option. So you can, if just one species is in the negative and the other species can tank it, you can always get a +5 bonus on one species at the cost of the other dudes. Here it doesn't really work because the humans will fall low, but also another thing, everybody's resolve drops differently fast. Check out the lizards, their resolve drops very, very slowly. Beaver resolve drops very fast. Humans are somewhere in between. So learning how to juggle the hostility here is a big thing. So we can now turn off the beaver treatment, so the humans go positive again, and as you see here, there's only a little bit of storm left. That's a very easy storm. Sometimes you have to juggle here very, very carefully, but this is a very powerful tool. And also keep in mind, when somebody is on negative resolve, they don't die immediately. There's a red circle running down before they leave, and you can always stop them from leaving by getting their resolve positive again. This juggling is extremely powerful. Another thing which you can go for is sacrifices. And sacrificing stuff here at the hearth, as you see here, wood reduces hostility and coal reduces hostility. These are, in my humble opinion, a means of last resort. If you have too much material, by all means, but usually you really should only rely on that if you have no other way of resolving that. So, in a nutshell, check out what the storm's nodes do, be prepared, and try to juggle your hostility down as good as possible, because the less woodcutters, the less hostility. Here's a couple of interesting fun facts. The higher the impatience of the queen, the lower the hostility too. So basically keeping a high meter here can be quite beneficial if the storm's going too hard on you. And a last thing that I wanted to say, if ever these storm modifiers piss you off too hard, just cancel the map right away and re-roll it again. As the game is right now, there's no punishment for that, and some modifiers are just no fun at all for me to play, and that's why I stopped playing them until they get reworked or modified, or if I see whether or not the devs are serious about that. Okay, enough about the storm, let's talk about glades. So glades are a very, very important part of the game, as you see there, and we accidentally opened one. And a rule of thumb for glades is very, very simple said. Open as many as necessary, but as few as possible, because every glade adds hostility, and therefore glade opening is something you should never do lightly. When you want to open a glade, a really cool way of doing is picking up the axe icon and hold down shift, so your brush goes very slow, and then you just mark the very, very few lowest amount of trees, and then you go on over there, and your dudes will then chop very, very quickly those trees up. That's damn important, because the best season, or sometimes you just want to be done with the glade events before the winter sets in. The storm, sorry, not winter. And another word about danger glades. Danger glades always contain one big bad event that has to be dealt with. Very important to note, every glade event can always be resolved with either simple tools or infused tools. They are like a joker card. That's why I said they are so darn powerful. As a rule of thumb, when you want to go really for a secure route, as soon as you have 14 tools, I don't know any event that needed more than 14 tools on a danger glade on prestige 13 and higher, 10 and higher. So that being said, tools are all you need. But I personally vote a lot for opening your first danger glade at year 2, at the beginning of year 2, or if you want to play more conservative, at the beginning of year 3, because the stuff you get here is so much better than the smaller glades. Smaller glades are really only... Open them only when you have to, because they are so much worse than the big ones. That's really something that I want to point out there. If you ever run into problems resolving a glade when you open it too early, or just generally, there's a nice power card in form of the Trading Posts Trader. So, as a rule of thumb, if you don't build the trading post in the first year, and when you set it up on the beginning of year 2, a trader will immediately arrive. And this trader often has exactly the other materials that you would need to resolve a glade event. Another cool thing to note, you start in pretty much all runs with a bit of coal, and coal is also quite present in a lot of different recipes. You just forbid your dudes to burn the coal at the beginning of the game, and you make sure that you have a lot of timber available. You can also take it as an embarkation bonus, and then you have that coal to resolve that event here. So in this particular scenario, I could have saved the coal, I could just chop down more trees which drop resin, or I could summon a trader and probably buy me some planks or some sea marrow or some oil. They often have that. And a last word, sometimes you open up your first glade and the mission goes foobar. That happens. That's the nature of the roguelike. Sometimes you just lose, but I personally say take the risk early instead of playing too conservative. The game's way more fun like that, and year 2 or 3 is perfectly fine for your first danger glade. So, last point I want to talk about in the game is about resolve. I lost a few words about resolve already in the storm section, but here's the thing. So you can win the game perfectly fine with resolve alone, basically. So I'm going to go into the encyclopedia to show you. So every species has things that make them happy, as you see there. Everybody needs something. Racial housing is a really cheap way of making people happy, and I highly recommend you to set up racial housing if you have access to it. And complex food is the next thing. It's always like that. First comes housing, then try to feed your people with good stuff. Then there's sometimes some additional things like clothing that doesn't need anything on top of that. And, well, clothing is like food. It's weird, but it works like that. It makes them happy. They consume it on a regular basis because well, whatever. The more important thing are the services back there. So humans like this and so on and so forth. Services are super powerful. They give a lot of extra resolve on top of that, but they are also really hard to take down. You need to draft the proper building, then you need to produce the proper material that is needed to fulfill that service. It's simply said the most complex way of fulfilling the resolve of your people, and I think that's a very, very alluring noob trap, to call it like that, to aim too early for services. The order is therefore go for housing first, then stick to your complex food, because that not only makes your people happier, it's also saving your dudes from starvation, because if you don't have complex food, your foragers won't be able to feed your colony. Ever. No chance. So it's a win-win. You get resolve out of that, and you get food out of that. Another thing, if your dudes are churning out resolve via churning out reputation via resolve, that's when their resolve is high enough to hit that little blue notch there, then don't turn in any orders. Don't produce reputation otherwise, because the thing is that the higher this bar goes, the more resolve they'll require to generate reputation again. So it's always worth it to delay your other rewards and turn them in as soon as the happiness in your colony doesn't churn out any reputation anymore. So that's all I wanted to say for this video. I know that there's tons more things to say. There's also, by the way, a tutorial series that I made. The link to the playlist is in the description box below, where I explain a lot of things way more in detail than here. So feel free to drop me a comment down below. A thumbs up would be widely appreciated too, and feel free to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this kind of content. I do stuff like this every day, and I'd be really delighted to have you. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you come back again. I thank you a lot for your spent time here, and have a wonderful day.